All right, gentlemen, thank you all for joining me, and to the world out there, this is Lake Charles Mayor Nick Meyer. As you can see, I've got a couple leaders in the community with me, and we are practicing social distancing. And this is my first time using Zoom, so this is a new experience for me as well. Yesterday, the city talked to our community and our citizens about unemployment insurance, which we believe is a tool that is very much needed right now, and trying to let people know about that information. But we also want to talk to small business owners and some of the resources that are available to business owners here in Lake Charles and Southwest Louisiana. So naturally, we reached out to my friend and local leader, George Swift, with the Southwest Louisiana Economic Development Alliance, and asked him for a suggestion of who else we should talk to. And lo and behold, luckily enough, his past chair is a gentleman named Phil Earhart, another friend who is also a leader in the banking industry. And so they are joining me today. George, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your job description?
Thank you, Mayor, and appreciate you doing this. I'm George Swift, the Southwest and the Economic Development Alliance, and we represent over 1,300 members in the chamber. Most of them are small businesses. And then on the economic development side, we've been very active in recruiting industry and supporting our local industry. And we've been fairly successful in our region, in case folks have not noticed that we happen to have had more projects here than probably anywhere in the country. And that will help sustain us through this crisis.
Thank you, George. Phil, introduce yourself, a little bit about your job description.
Phil, excuse me, Phil Earhart, with market leader and market president of IBERIABANK in Southwest Louisiana. We're the largest bank in Southwest Louisiana at over $1 billion in deposits, and with 8 branches. So it's been a real pleasure to watch us grow over the past couple of years. So.
Awesome, awesome. Phil, you've been in banking for how many years?
More than I want to admit. Almost 40 years. 40 years of banking.
40 years.
The last 30 here in Lake Charles.
So, gentlemen, before we get really into some of the meat and potatoes, I just always like to ask, y'all are friends, you're people I care about. Anytime I'm talking with somebody, George, let's start out with you. How are you doing? How's your family? I mean, how's the dynamic in the office right now?
Well, we are doing fine, trying to practice social distancing, which is not easy. My son and his family live in Moss Bluff. He works at Citco, and so he's been working, and they're out of school. We have 2 granddaughters, and so they're getting very creative of how to spend their day home schooling, I guess. Here at the office at the Alliance, we have closed Seed Center to the public, but we're still open. Most of our staff is operating remotely. We had a staff meeting yesterday on Zoom, which is very effective, and you're able to see folks and conduct business. We've got our membership folks calling our members to see how we can be of assistance to them. We're still working R.B. Smith and Gus Fontenot on economic development projects, and a lot of questions coming in, so we've been quite busy.
All right, and Phil, same to you. How are you and Lucy doing?
We're doing great. Self-quarantining, working from both home and from office. Happily, we got a puppy in October, so that is entertaining us. So that's keeping us entertained. Doing a lot of stuff, walking around the neighborhood, checking out things, good stuff. Cooking, enjoying. Watched LSU beat Georgia the other day. I'm saving the Clemson game for another time to watch. But as far as from work, we are operating lobby only. I'm sorry, closed lobby, drive-through only, and with most of our associates working from home. So so far, so good.
All right. Sounds like adaption is kind of the key word in all of this. So gentlemen, both of y'all have been in the business community for a long time. George, you used to work in the radio industry, and Phil, you in banking for a few years. You know, I just like to put things in perspective. We had the oil bust in the 80s. We had the savings and loan crisis, dot-com bubble burst, Hurricane Rita, the 2008 financial crisis. All of those things happened. They affected this nation. Some more so Southwest Louisiana. George, let's start off with you. How do you compare what we're going through right now to some of those past experiences?
Well, when I came to Lake Charles, it was in 1985, and the oil crisis was beginning to come back a little bit. And I was in the radio broadcasting business, selling radio advertising, and it was a tough time. And I remember people saying, going on here, last one out, turn out the lights and all of that. And so we survived through that. I think the difference now, of course, is that health is involved. The others were more economic. The Hurricane Rita, of course, a tremendous fiscal damage done to homes and businesses and trees and all of that, but you could rebuild that. And this crisis affects health. And I would like every business to be open right now. I'm an advocate for more growth and more business, but we've got to listen to the medical experts and not do things that are unsafe, because if we all get sick and die, the business is not going to have any customers. And so we've got to contain this, especially in Southwest Louisiana. As you know, the state has one of the fastest growth rates of the coronavirus of any state in the nation and any country in the world. So New York may be surpassing us a little bit, but that's not something to be proud of. So we want to be safe, and that has to come first. And so it's tough. It's going to impact our organization and every business, and we've got to learn how to adapt and do things a new way. But I think the main difference, Mayor, is that this is a matter of life and death. Others are things that you can get through. And after Hurricane Rita, you know, this area was greatly impacted. It was devastating. But out of that, and the elected officials made a lot of wise decisions. A lot of things were done working together. That's when we formed the Alliance, bringing the Chamber and Economic Development and the Southwest Partnership together. And we began to have some interest in the area with the ship channel and the pipelines and the fracking and the discovery of all that. And then turned out that we ended up leading the nation in growth. And, you know, 6 months after Hurricane Rita, I didn't think we'd ever have another prospect come here. I couldn't get people to talk to me on the telephone, much less come visit. But that changed. And so it just proves that, you know, when you have adversity, it also creates opportunities, and you just have to find a way to adapt. And that's what business is good at doing, is adapting to the situation.
Absolutely. And I think small business owners are especially good at that. I remember in Hurricane Rita, I had my restaurant on College Street for 1 year, and then Hurricane Rita hit. And I remember coming back into Lake Charles, seeing half the trees down roads, going into my restaurant and cleaning out the walk-in cooler. And that was a humbling experience. Nobody should have to experience what chicken does after a week in the heat. And I remember thinking, how are we ever going to get back from this? And we did. And so that's a great point, George. Phil, same question to you.
I remember going into the Harlequin right after you opened, and I think it was you and one other person trying to handle everything, because you didn't have any workers, but you managed to get back in business and then got it going again. And so that's what happens, you know, when you have a problem. You got to adapt, and a lot of people are going to be affected because they're closed now or in greatly reduced capacity, and it's going to be tough. But we've got some help on the way from the federal government.
Absolutely. And then Phil, same thing to you, and maybe from more of a banking perspective. Some of these events we've been through in the past, from a banking perspective, how does this compare to some of those other events?
Well, first, I'd like to address, George gave a great summary of how Southwest Louisiana comes back, always comes together. To me, that's the real strength of our region, is that we always come back. We get together, we solve problems, and we come out better. We take those lessons that we learn and come out stronger. And my gosh, who would have thought we'd have had this economic boom that we're having now after Rita? That's amazing. That's such a tribute to our community and to our community leaders and to our business people and our small business people. My gosh, man, that's what I have to say. When I came here in 1990, that was sort of, as George said, that was sort of, we had a real slowdown at this time, and I came with a bank, and we grew from 0 to 30 million in 6 months. We were doing well. We just had one little branch, and because of economic hard times, they wanted to shut us down and move me to Baton Rouge. I fell in love with Lake Charles. Lucy and our daughter, we just made this home. And one of the strengths of that, and I've thrived here, is a tribute to the people and the community. I mean, to me, that is our biggest strength is our community. We're so family oriented. We want to succeed. We want to show what Southwest Louisiana can do. So that's our biggest strength is our people. I can't say it enough. As far as the banks go, the difference in this crisis, I looked at it and it really surprised me when you go to the grocery store and people are buying water and buying stuff and all. We haven't lost power. We're not going to lose power on this as we have with hurricanes and other natural disasters. As far as financial crisis and stuff, the good thing, the underlying thing is our national economy is strong. I mean, the fundamentals are all there. Same here in Southwest Louisiana. We're going to take a hit. We know we're going to take a hit from small business. And that's why it's so vital, as George just said, for these federal programs to kick in. And I'll talk later about some SBA stuff and what your local banks can do also. But bottom line is the strongest thing we have going for us here is our people. Can't say it enough.
Amen. I like what both of y'all said. And sometimes I think we don't invite natural disasters or crises, but I think sometimes we see the best in people during natural disasters and crises. And I think that is very true here in Southwest Louisiana. I've actually had more messages from community members wanting to help over the past week than I have people saying they need help. And I don't know if you get that in every community in America. And I think that's really something special and something that we've got to recognize here. So let's talk about, we've mentioned the federal government a little bit. I'm going to go to Phil for this one first. Phil, what are you willing to share, or what can you share about the message that banks are hearing from the federal government right now? And what tools are banks using right now to help some of their clients, some of their business clients?
Well, the first thing we're hearing is that, help's on the way. Thank goodness, it looks like that Congress is going to come together and pass the stimulus bill for us. We need that. The hospitals need that. The banks need it. Small business needs help. My gosh, and even the $1,200 checks for families that are incomes under $75,000. That all helps. My gosh, we need this. We need Congress to come together and do that first one. As far as what the banks are doing, I mentioned earlier, SBA, can't say it enough. The SBA is a good organization. They only have a few hundred employees, and I shared this with you earlier. This week alone, they've already had over 350,000 applications. They are overwhelmed. So one of the things that the government has done is they're going to allow the banks to actually take the SBA applications, and that's sort of a change. So what I would encourage small business men and small business women to do is reach out to their bankers if their bankers haven't already reached out to them. I would hope that their bankers have reached out to them and checked in on them, but that's the first thing you need to do is call your banker and say, hey, what can you do? Several banks, IBERIABANK included, we're going to do forbearance agreements where we can do up to 90-day deferral of payments, both interest, principal and interest. So things like that are available out there. Several banks are doing this. I was on a group text message with about 8 other bankers last Friday, checking what are you guys doing? Let's share and do this. That's another good thing. Our strength here in Southwest Louisiana. The banks talk. We're competitors, but my gosh, we're friendly competitors, and we want to all succeed and help the community. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Nick, but.
That's great. And I tell you, I really like hearing that last part, especially that the banking community talks and works together. That's not true in all industries.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that y'all do talk and work together, because some things that some banks are seeing might not be the same that others are seeing. And I also want to talk just real quickly about a personal experience I had with the SBA after Hurricane Rita. I applied for an SBA loan for my restaurant was approved. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I would have survived if it was not for that SBA loan.
Yeah.
And it took me probably 10 years, but I paid it off. And so the SBA has been a successful tool in disaster past, and we absolutely believe that that's going to be the same for this disaster. George, do you have any other comments about what small business owners should be doing right now, whether with their banker or other agencies?
Yes, Mayor, the legislation that we expect to be passed by the Senate today, as we're recording this, and hopefully with the House by tomorrow, so within 48 hours, we hope to have legislation. There's been a compromise that was worked out about 2 a.m. this morning. And one of the major things that is in there that will help our small businesses is about $350 billion. Now, a lot of the businesses that we've talked to said, look, I can't afford the SBA loan. I'm already highly leveraged. I just can't take on another loan. What this does is will give you a loan forgiveness. In other words, it will become more like a grant. You have to apply through the loan process, and then you can be reimbursed. So this will give local businesses 3 to 4 months of operating money, and it's primarily to pay salaries and operating costs so we can keep people employed. I think, as Phil said, the best thing to do is go talk to your local banker or credit union. Either one of them can help you navigate this process. A lot of people, if they have gone on the SBA website, have found that it's locking up because it's so much. But here's the website. We've spared no expense in the graphics for this. But if you'll go to the SBA website, you can start your application. But I would recommend going to a local bank, hopefully your banker, and talking about it. Also in the legislation, Mayor, you'll be happy to know that they put $150 billion for state and local governments because the governments are going to be impacted too. They added money for hospitals, about $130 billion, and then each individual will get up to $1,200 and $500 per child. And there are certain income levels, and I think, Phil, the family income is maybe $150,000 or something like that. We'll get 75 each, but there's relief on the way, and this is a $2 trillion package. Can you imagine that? $2 trillion. I can't even imagine how many zeros it is, but that's what it's going to take to get this recovery started. And I predict, and don't have to be too bright, that this is just the first step. There'll probably be recovery for as they find out what's lacking. So help is on the way, and we're encouraging the businesses, if you can hang on for a week or two, I think we'll all be okay. We'll get this money in, get reimbursed, and then hopefully you can open it up within a period of time. Now, what time we can open back up, I think we need to leave that. The governor will make that decision, and he will based on medical advice from the health folks. And so that's what we've got to suck it up and you know, hang on as best we can, but financial help is on the way.
Well said, George.
Thanks, George. George, do you have a pen next to you?
Okay.
I want you to add an S to that and hold it up one more time.
What's that?
I saw it too.
Add an S, disaster.
Okay.
We're working quickly, folks. So
That's right.
Spelling error there. That's all right.
Spared no expense on this one.
That's all right.
We're asking all businesses to go to the Alliance website, SWLA.org, and click on the COVID-19 button, and then it'll say, take the survey. Click on that, and we're asking all businesses to fill out this survey. We've had several hundred come in, and as you can imagine, about 91% of the respondents have said they're going to be impacted by this, and they are doing things like about 50% are restricting travel and meetings outside of the company. They are doing things like having supply problems, getting their products and materials about 25%, and about 70%, of course, have lost their customers, and about 23% are not having the employees come to work. So we're finding out things that we can see how we can be of assistance at the Alliance to the business community, programs that we might need to do, bring in other resources. The State Department of Economic Development is working on a bridge loan program. I don't know what the scope of that will be, but the best hope right now is the SBA loan through your local banks. One thing that we found out, Mayor, is that about 35% of the businesses do not have any capacity to work remotely, either from their homes and so forth. So the technology companies are just swamped with requests. We were fortunate enough at the Alliance that with laptops and cell phones and things like Zoom, we can continue to operate. People can call our number. We can refer to whoever they need. And so I think we all have got to figure out a way to, operate remotely and online. Businesses that do not have capacity to have a website need to get one real quick and figure out how to get online. So this is going to change the way we operate for the time being. People are comfortable. In the health department, folks say it's safe to have large crowds. I think you're going to have, more pickup and delivery. We have on our website a list of chamber member restaurants and food establishments that are open for pickup and delivery. We'd urge everybody to utilize that, and let's stick together, because if we shop local and support our local businesses, we make it, and we're all in this together. And that's what we want to emphasize is shop local, be safe and responsible, but you're going to need items. So support the folks that have supported our community through the years.
Thank you, George. Gentlemen, let's go to some closing statements. I'll try to keep these brief because I think we have about 5 minutes left. I just want to say that we both mentioned our governor and what the government is doing. And I know that businesses are asked to do right now is very difficult. Right. But I do think we've got to support our governor, and we've got to support what scientists and doctors are telling us right now. And I can only speak for me and perhaps some other local mayors who have also given me that blessing to say that on their behalf. But I think by and large, local elected officials here in Southwest Louisiana, we support our governor, and we're going to get through this together. Some quick closing statements. Phil?
I was just going to say, George, you really nailed everything that needed to be touched on. I want to say just a couple of things. Several banks are doing this. We're working with skeletal crews. Like we've got a team A and a team B, where 1 week on, 1 week off, so we can we can have the social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. Other thing, can't say enough, shop local, shop local. And one last thing, I am going to share my button. How's this? Can you see that?
I see it. I love it.
So good stuff. Message. Great community. We're going to get through this.
Thank you, Phil. George?
I think our area elected officials have done a great job of keeping us informed with your daily briefings, and the sheriff and all of the officials that have been on. That's key to keeping citizens informed. Nobody likes to be closed down, especially me. I'm a workaholic. And so I like to have things going, but we have got to stay safe. We've got to follow the recommendations. And again, help is on the way for small businesses, for the hospitals, through the SBA loan, through the federal legislation. And I just urge everyone to support our local businesses and apply for this assistance, and help is on the way to the individual workers also, so they can keep going and buy the food and necessities for their families. So we've come through a lot of tough things here in Southwest Louisiana, and we can do this if we all stay together and unify in what our purpose is, and that's to be safe and survive and come back stronger than ever.
Hear, hear.
All right, so business owners, talk to your bankers or credit unions about SBA or other options they have. Shop local for anybody that can, and we're going to get through this together. Gentlemen, I think this is a great conversation. Appreciate y'all's leadership, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.